Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. People I love having on here because we just like to talk guns, whether it's on the show or on the phone or any other time. Jeff Hoffman from Black Hills Ammunition joins us right now. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, Tom, doing real well.
Well, good deal. What you been shooting recently? I guess that's the first question.
Oh, been playing around a little bit with 6.5 Creedmoor. I've got a 10-inch 5.56 I've been shooting more than anything here lately.
Ooh.
Not too much pistol. I recently bought a Springfield Armory pistol and liking it a lot.
Which one'd you get?
That the little 9mm. Trying to remember what the name was.
The Hellcat?
The Hellcat, yeah, the Hellcat Pro with put a holosun on it, and that's a hoot with that little dot. I was shooting at a steel plate at 300 yards with it and hitting it once in a while.
That's a pocket pistol. That's just that's a people would say, oh, you can't hit anything with that. 300 yards, wow.
It's kind of cheating with one of those little red dots because it's no longer how much front sight do you hold up while you're obscuring your target. You just kind of shoot, correct, hold up a little higher and a little more into the wind, and pretty soon you're dropping them right in.
Oh man, that is fun. It kind of points out a point. I was thinking about this, and we started figuring it out back when we were putting lasers on our little pistols, like you put a laser on a J-frame or something, 2-inch barrel, and all of a sudden
right.
You can hit steel at 50 or 100 yards. I mean, it's not difficult at all. The guns are accurate. Yep.
You just got to be able to have sights that are usable at those distances, and then just a little bit of trigger squeeze and sight picture.
It really is so much of it is the trigger. Okay, I've been telling people we're going to be talking about this. You alluded to a couple of days ago to me. I told you I'd gotten my new 28-year-old Freedom Arms 454 Casull. I'm looking forward to that. And you told me a little bit of a story. You got to tell us the story about you, the 454 Casull, and the muskrat.
That was years ago. I don't know, a good 20 years ago. I'd just gotten a 454 and I was deer hunting with it. And I was walking along my dad's ranch and went by a stock dam and I saw a muskrat out there. And ranchers hate muskrats because they bore holes in the dam grade and the water goes in there and freezes and breaks up the dam. So this, and I think statute of limitations are passed on this, so I could probably talk about it. So this muskrat's swimming along, and I decided, well, I'd just as well try to engage that little guy before he bores holes in the dam. And I think by the time that 454 was empty, I might have been hurt worse than he was. I'd hit him, I'd hit the water, and he'd flip out of the water, and then he'd swim on a little ways. But I tell you what, those things are loud with no earplugs. Not recommended. That's probably a good part of the reason doing stuff like that I currently wear hearing aids.
Yeah, and we kind of tend to forget because we do almost all our shooting at the range and we're wearing hearing protection. You go out, especially with handguns. If it's a rifle and you're going to shoot one shot at a deer, it's not too bad. But all of a sudden you say, well, I'll just pull out my 357 or my 454 and whang away at it. And you go, whoa, that's loud.
Yeah, and you realize it afterwards where your ears are ringing all the way home.
Right. So, but recoil on that 454, it will get your attention.
You got to be ready for it. A short story. First time I went to shoot a holiday, a bunch of gun writers together, and I'm at the line. I'm the new kid, and Brian Pierce. For those that read his stuff, will be familiar with him. The Brian Pierce, the cowboy, the gun writer, great big guy. Mm-hmm. I'm there shooting, and he's got a 454. He says, I said, nice pistol. He says, you want to shoot it? I go, yeah. So he hands it to me, and he's going to watch this newbie catch a front sight in the forehead.
Right.
And I shot pistol quite a bit, so I knew enough to hang on, and so I shot it once and went to hand it back to him. He says, hell, there's 4 more in there, shoot it. So I I shot the other 4, and I instinctively flipped open the loading gate and went to start shucking out shells. And he goes, no, 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 no. Then he takes it away from me, and he's got in his back pocket, he's got a ball-peen hammer and a dowel. And he pops the cylinder out of that thing, slides the dowel in, and starts banging cases out. And I said, you got them loaded, it might warm? He says, oh, it's a Freedom Arms, it'll take it.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that points out something that we were talking about offline here, is that the 454 Casull is loaded under SAMI specs. If I remember right, is it 65,000 PSI is the top pressure on that thing?
That sounds right. Sounds like too much, but I think it's the correct spec.
Yeah, it's right. It sounds like way too much, and so that makes it right. But yeah, for those who are hand loading for it, be really careful. And honestly, there are some guns out there you might want to load it down just a little bit. And the reality is, and I would just throw this out, Jeff, before we get into other stuff we want to talk about. With that thing, you could load it down a bit, and you still got what amounts to a super hot 45 Colt. And you can still punch holes in elk and anything else you want to shoot.
Yep, agreed. That's kind of the way with most calibers. The natural inclination for a beginning hand loader is to buy one manual and look at the top load and say that ought to be good, and not really the right way to start. A lot of times your best performance isn't at the max load, and you don't want to just go with one manual. I always made sure I had at least 3 manuals, and then I would look at them and kind of throw out the extreme, and then go a little bit down from the top loads in the other ones.
Well, and there's another factor in here. It's a safety factor. Is typos exist both online and in printed manuals, and they're these guys are very good about having triple checking all of their loads before they publish them. But how would you know if there's a typo in a recommended load unless you compare it with something else, right?
Yep, that's true. And then there's other things too. I'm older than a lot of them out there, but I started hand loading when I was 14. But if you want to see something interesting, go back on some of the older manuals like the Spear 6, 7, and 8.
I just going to say the old Spear manuals, man, they were hot.
The first back on the 6, at that time, if I remember correctly, they didn't do any pressure testing. It was how it looked in the gun. Did they extract easy? Was there any sign of primer cratering? Things like that. And then I think it was by this number 7 manual, they were doing copper crusher testing, which was an earlier method than what's current, where you got this little, as you're familiar with, a little copper cylinder that fits into a hole drilled in the side of the barrel. And when you fire, that copper crusher gets crushed to a certain degree, and then you measure the crusher to see look at the table to see, okay, if it was crushed this much, this is your approximate pressure. Mm-hmm. And that was state of the art then, 30 and 40 years ago. That was state of the art. And then later on, they got piezo testing, which, without boring people with details, it's a lot more sophisticated. Instead of a piece of copper, you got a little quartz that you're compressing and reading electrical signals coming off of it. And with each time they got more sophisticated in their testing, the loads dropped a little bit because they look at it and say, "Oh, we maybe shouldn't have been doing that." And, when they started doing the conformal piezo system versus copper crusher, mm-hmm. there was a lot of loads like fast powders in 9mm that they said, we might back off of that because the copper crusher wouldn't pick up the exact peak pressure. Right. The filter was there and gone before the copper crusher could be compressed. So once they started with piezo method where they could see exactly what the peak was, they said, we probably better back that down a little bit. Okay, takeaway from that is use modern, it's fun to have the old load or loading manuals, but use a modern loading manual. Jeff, hold on a second. I got to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about some of the new ammo, and there's a very cool one that we can announce here that's coming out of Black Hills Ammo. We'll be right back with more gun talk. Hey, we're talking with Jeff Hoffman. He's the president of Black Hills Ammo. Check it out, black-hills.com. Jeff, I always tell people, look, if your rifle won't shoot with Black Hills Ammo, it's the rifle. It's nothing else, because your ammo just flat out shoots. we do our best. We kind of pride ourselves on performance. We may not be the economy producer, but that's because we spend so much time trying to make loads as absolutely as good as we can, right down to hand and inspecting. But we are known for accuracy. But there's something else, Tom, that I've seen is sometimes you can have a great gun and you know it shoots, and you've got some ammo that's known to shoot well, and you put them together, and sometimes they just don't like each other. It's a matter of compatibility. Like sometimes guys like blondes, or some other guys like brunettes or redheads. Guns are that way. Sometimes it's one or the other isn't good, but sometimes you got two good things that just don't like each other. I've seen that. Ammo that I know will shoot men at angle, and we had one test rifle that as soon as I put that particular load in it, I couldn't get anything under softball size.
Wow. And sometimes just then change to a different load, maybe a different bullet or something, and all of a sudden it shoots well again.
Exactly. There's a military project we're working on right now, and this ammunition will shoot half minute out of a fixture, and it shoots half minute out of barrels that are built for that bullet. But a lot of it's a real challenge getting a gas gun to shoot that bullet. So it's really, really good bullet, but you got to do everything right. Figure out how to make that chamber work for that bullet to get the best accuracy out of it.
Talk to me for a second about, and I know you build a lot of special type ammo for the military, and you do a lot of secret squirrel kind of stuff, but also you make hunting ammo. And one of the things I'm seeing is a lot of interest in the all copper bullets. Of course, in some places you're required to use that. Barnes, of course, has been doing that forever, and now Hornady's got theirs. How do they shoot, and how do they perform, in ballistic tests?
They shoot really well. When they first came out, I'll admit, I was a skeptic. I thought copper being harder than lead, you probably couldn't get those things to open up with a hammer. And through testing, both on critters and on ballistic gelatin, I realized I was wrong. You can design a monolithic bullet, a copper bullet, to do pretty much what you want. Surprisingly, on gelatin, they open up immediately. They're typically fully opened up within 1 inch of hitting ballistic gelatin. They mushroom to large diameters. They retain their weight. They, after forming a big temporary cavity, big wound cavity, they penetrate deep. I'm really a fan of monolithic bullets now. Both we're most familiar with the Barnes and the Hornady, but both of them work good. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what I use. Well, I'm sitting here on a ridge overlooking a lot of pretty country right now with my Shorty AR, and it's loaded with TSX bullets. You're
sitting out there. Are you hunting right now?
No, I had to come out and help my dad check some water lines to find a leak, and so to get cell service, I had to come up on top of the hill to talk to you.
I love it. All right, so one of the things, of course, you guys are known for is the Honey Badger ammo, and it kind of redefines performance in a lot of handgun rounds. And I was talking to you this week, and you said you got it in 10 millimeter now.
We do. We have it in 10 millimeter, and it works really well. It's surprisingly, when people look at it, it's a 115 grain bullet, and people naturally think, we're not hunting squirrels here, Jeff. But what I found is that, the conventional thought about lightweight bullets goes out the window when you're talking monolithic, solid copper bullets, because typically people think with a lightweight bullet, it'll overexpand, it'll fragment, and you won't get any kind of penetration with it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. With a solid copper bullet, with the flutes, we got a sharp cutting edge on the front of the Honey Badger, big flutes that displace the tissue and expel it radially, and actually accelerate it during the course. I had a really smart engineer explain how it does that. But you can get really good performance, you can get really high velocity, and you don't have to worry about the bullet failing to perform because it's solid copper. It's not going to blow apart on you. You're just going to be able to pick up all that velocity and make use of it.
Would the 10 millimeter, obviously the 44 Magnum that you do in that, but would because a lot of people are interested in 10 millimeter now as bear protection, would the Honey Badger load be a decent load for that?
I think it'd be a really good choice, both for caliber and for bullet. A lot of people are going to 10 millimeters versus 44 Magnums because they've got more controllability, less recoil, less muzzle blast, and you've got maybe 16 rounds instead of 6 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put a really good bullet like the Honey Badger bullet. We designed that for a balance of wound cavity plus penetration. We could have made it penetrate, 30-some inches really easy. That's the trick is to get it to penetrate less but give you a larger wound diameter. So we kind of compromised. We went to, I think it was 20 to 23 inches of penetration, and we're getting temporary cavity diameters around 5-inch diameters. So it's really a pretty impressive cartridge, and that would be my choice if I've never hunted outside of South Dakota. I have to admit, I don't like it here. I'm not social enough to travel very much. But if I was going to go to Alaska and I was worried about bears and wanted a handgun for protection, that's what I would take is a 9 millimeter or a 10 millimeter, and I'd load it with the Honey Badgers.
With the Honey Badger, and you're going with lighter bullets, it just occurred to me, you're going to get a little bit less recoil too.
Oh, it's very controllable. We've got one of those Ruger pistols, the special run that you had made,
mm-hmm.
and that is very controllable. Anybody that can shoot a 45 well can shoot a 10 millimeter well with that load.
Isn't that a nice pistol? I just love that thing.
It's very compact. A lot of power. It's a commander-sized pistol, and it's very controllable. And of course, my favorite gun is my favorite pistol is a 10 millimeter. I carried a favorite pistol is a 1911, but it's also good in the 10 millimeter.
Right.
But I carried a 1911 20 years past when everybody else on the department was switched over to plastic guns.
No wonder they were calling you the old man.
Yep, they kind of left me alone because most of the time I was a reserve and I was SRT, so combination of that, they kind of looked at me and said, "Who is that guy, and how's he allowed to do that?" But I guess it's okay.
Don't bother him. He's kind of different over there.
He's kind of different.
Yeah, exactly right. So what else is new that you we got a minute left? You said, okay, we got to tell you about this other thing we've been doing. So what else?
This year we're going to be bringing out some of the 6.5 PRCs, and we're going to bring out a 6 ARC, which is a cute little 6 millimeter cartridge that fits in a 5.56 platform, and it's a lot of power. I think it's the best long range cartridge that you can put in a 5.56.
The 6 ARC. I'll be darned. Okay, well I'm going to look into that. Son of a gun.
It's cute. It looks a lot like the BR or
okay.
One of those. It's not real long in the case, and it leaves plenty of room to use long high BC bullets out of it. It's pretty good. First time I took it out, I was shooting with an AR, and I was holding about 40 inches of wind. I was shooting probably a minute and a half at 600, so shooting like 9-inch groups, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood.
Wow.
At 600 in the wind.
Jeez, that's impressive. Good deal. Well, keep us posted if you would, okay? Well, as soon as you get those things out, we'll talk about them, okay?
That sounds good, Tom.
Jeff, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure. We love shooting the breeze about guns.
You bet. Thanks. Call me anytime.
Will do. You take care. Jeff Hoffman from Black Hills Ammunition, black-hills.com. You know, there are some people you just talk to him and go, yeah, this guy knows things. And, it doesn't try to impress you with anything. It's just like, it just kind of comes out in the process, and that's the way it is with Jeff. As a result, they make some of the best ammo out there, I think. Just really, really good stuff. As you say, not the cheapest, but often some of the very best.